Welcome to Slow News Day. I'm Steve Poikinen. We are here highlighting artists, activists, organizers, and agitators pushing back against late-stage capitalism here in the heart of the empire. Joining me tonight are the hosts of Reefer+Revolution+Live, Sundays at 4:20 on the YouTube. We've got Dave, Connen, and Chela, and I couldn't be happier to have them on tonight to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart and my head, and that is cannabis. So welcome to the show, guys. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate you asking us on. It's great to be here.
Thanks so much.
Hell yeah. So I would like to know how you stumbled into the show, and we can kind of jump off from there.
It really started, my streaming on YouTube life started back political with Bernie 2016 TV, and I started doing engagement broadcasting with that channel as a host. Covering the Bernie blackout that was going on back then in the summer of 2015. So that was really my introduction to broadcasting on YouTube, and I'm a political junkie, and I got hooked on it. Started doing some more shows with actually Lauren Steiner. We started the Robust Opposition together.
Okay.
Started producing her show early on. Also Project Sanity, which were a couple guys that spun off from Bernie 2016 TV. So we got into this, and I really enjoyed it. And then Bernie got screwed. And we kind of dropped out of politics for a little while. We sort of got really discouraged and dejected.
Well, we supported Kenneth Mejia.
We support
right after.
Yeah, we did support Kenneth Mejia, and we're basically NPP here in California. We've been Democrats twice for Kucinich and for Bernie, and now thankfully we don't have to do that anymore.
Yes.
But we did vote green a few times here in safe California, as they say, but would have anywhere. But really, we turned to cannabis because it became really a lot bigger part of our lives in as much as we are users, regular users and consumers. We got our medical card because that's what you did here in California.
Yeah.
Rarely did we use dispensaries, though. More of a traditional market kind of folks.
Right.
But then Chela's mom got sick, and talk about what happened with cannabis and that.
So my mom was diagnosed with dementia in 2010, and the doctor said, "Oh, she can't use cannabis, it's bad for her memory." And I said, "You just diagnosed her with Alzheimer's disease, and the only thing I know about that is that it's bad for your memory." And they said, "Oh no, you can't. And they had her on all these drugs, and I didn't really understand the interactions, and it was triage. I don't know if you know, but when people are diagnosed with dementia, it's really a shit show.
Yeah.
So we stayed away from cannabis as much as we could for her, and about a year and a half in, she fell 5 times in 3 weeks, and
on all the antipsychotics that they put her on.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
All of her prescribed medications.
Black box drugs.
Yeah, and she was having failure to thrive. She wouldn't get out of bed for 3 weeks, and the doctor, she wanted to smoke a joint with us, and I called the doctor, and the doctor said she won't get out of bed, do whatever she wants. So we smoked a joint, and lo and behold, she got out of bed. We were in the living room, we were hanging out, and I went, okay, they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started doing all the research. We started her on cannabis oil in her coconut oil shakes, around 2011. And we were all avid users of cannabis, my mom my whole life, for gallstones, pain. So I'd known that it was a medicine my whole life, but I was always kind of like, because my dad used it recreationally all the time. And
we used it recreationally.
And we used it what we thought was recreationally.
Right.
But now I know better that I absolutely used it for anxiety. And that's how how we came to cannabis as a thing. And through Dave and our activism, we were big political activists for a long time. And after Bernie, the debacle.
Yeah, we decided to focus on something we wanted really to happen.
Yeah.
And this is like, you say, talk about in one of your earlier episodes, I think it's your first episode actually, that, we need to find issues that everybody's on board and can talk about, and we can really, find issues that a lot of people can get behind. And cannabis is, guess what, something that everybody is behind.
Yeah.
as far as the population goes. And really, so I gave up on the news as much as I could,
Right.
and focused on the cannabis news,
Yeah.
and started doing the Week in Weed broadcast on my own, and had some guests on and some help. But basically, it was a one-man band. And then Chela started to get involved with the Alzheimer's end of it with cannabis, and we started talking about that. So the show has really just developed over a 2-year period now, along with our journey with Mom. And now we are, we're pot pundits, essentially, criticizing media, marijuana in the mainstream media, and the politics of pot across the country. We talk about all of the legalization issues in all the states, whether it's CBD only laws or medical only, to all the way to full-blown green rush recreational tax and regulate schemes that are popping up in all the states. We weren't supporters of Prop 64.
No.
Right. No, neither was I. And I think I've made that clear on the show.
Yeah. The patients have been suffering in wherever they've made recreational legalized, the patients have been suffering and continue to.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that that's the narrative that they're going for. And on a federal level, S420 now is the tax and regulate, cannabis like alcohol.
Which it's not at all like alcohol.
Which it's not. So
alcohol is a neurotoxin and cannabis is a neuroprotectant. So
right.
It's not at all the same. And so our mission is to educate and elevate this conversation,
right.
Because it's not been so. We really also focus on the medicinal aspects and how it is not at all like alcohol, and also how the drug war has ruined so many Black and brown lives.
Yeah.
And we need to work on changing that,
poor
turning
lives.
that around.
Correct.
And poor people's lives.
There were 3 stories this week of guys taking marijuana across the border that's not going to kill anybody. All white guys driving trucks around. It's the disparity is there, but they're still locking people up for marijuana. And they're locking up for people all over the country for marijuana in legal states. The arrests are going up.
Did you say the Eagle states?
Still there, but John Boehner is all in on cannabis. Good.
I about fell out of my damn chair when I heard that John Boehner was part of a cannabis hedge fund.
Spark up? Is it okay if we?
Oh, absolutely! Yeah. By all means, do your thing. We're for that here in general.
They have the hemp cigarettes now. You can buy online. You can get 100% hemp joints delivered in 50 states.
Wow.
Yeah.
High CBD, low THC.
Yeah. So I was
it's not
just
your granddaddy's hemp anymore.
I was just talking to a buddy of mine yesterday. There's a Hunter S. Thompson collection at the University of Santa Cruz Library, and it's still being cataloged, but it's open to the public. I went down. I called a friend of mine who sent me the article about it being there in the first place. I'm like, hey, I'm going to the thing. You want to come? He's been involved in the industry his adult life, and he was talking to me about CBDs and autism, right. And how he was because he consults, and he just was at a consult for a potential CBD farm coming up, and about how that he has seen a lot of positive results with CBDs and autistic kids and autistic adults.
But not just CBD.
Right. Low dose CBD doesn't really work unless you've at least got a low dose of THC to kick it in.
For the most part, yeah.
There's a great group called Whole Plant Access for Autism. It's a group of parents, basically, treating their kids with whole plant cannabis for their kids' autism. And some of these kids are taking like 600, 700, 800 milligrams of THC, and they're just functioning as people.
Right, they're just functioning.
They're not high and crazy and wild and laughing and medicated out of their minds. They're just functioning with the family.
Yeah.
So we don't know nearly as much as we really need to know, but there are people fighting the fight.
Well, I mean, we've had a war on research
Oh,
yeah.
for,
completely.
what, 70 years or more?
75 years, yeah.
80 years, yeah.
75 years.
It's
Why do we have to get it on Schedule 1?
And what research there has been either to find negative aspects. That's all NIDA does. All of NIDA's research is strictly they have to find harm. What's the harm with this plant? They don't look for stuff. They're starting to change that now, from what we understand from Dr. Sue Sicily, who was literally took 7 years to get a study done with vets and PTSD with smokable cannabis. They just finished it. And the University of Arizona kicked them out. They couldn't get, the weed they got was crap. It was a pain in the ass to get it. And right now, there's still 25 applications on the Attorney General's desk to basically to break the monopoly that the DEA and NIDA have on the one farm in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Where they grow.
The research farm, yeah.
So there's 25 people, other farms that want to get on the list to grow good medicinal cannabis to actually study. So the Schedule 1 status, the barrier, Sessions just ignored it. They were all begging doctors, scientists are begging Sessions to release these farms. And now there's another group of scientists that are doing the same thing with the new AG, saying, get off the stick.
But he's a Reagan crony. What the fuck is he gonna do? I mean,
Reagan would have benefited from cannabis.
Oh, Reagan would have benefited from a lot of things, but
Well, I know, but people can move.
Killer Mike has a great song about Reagan, and the last line in the song is "I'm glad Reagan's dead," and I'll leave it at that. I don't really need.
I'll never be on the Ronnie was a god.
Never.
No.
I know Ronnie.
But no,
he did have Alzheimer's, however.
Oh yeah,
which our new crazy president Mike could possibly have.
I believe he's a candidate for dementia. From what I understand, it runs in his family. He certainly exhibits the behavior of someone who's taking
100%.
some drugs to counteract early onset dementia or Alzheimer's. I mean, it's not like the guy was a rational actor to begin with. What's that? I'm sorry.
Well, he does the Rogaine too. And that causes can cause brain changes as well.
Jimmy Dore said something about that. Like he took Propecia years ago, and it seriously alters your brain chemistry. It's
a lot of drugs do that. A lot of big pharma stuff does that.
Not eating vegetables and taking Diet Coke.
Oh yeah.
He ain't eating organic,
This guy's not the picture of health, and it runs in his family.
How the fuck does a guy eat like that and just not?
Whatever.
So let's talk about changing minds. Today, literally, Marijuana Moment, which is one of our great news sources for cannabis on our show, just broke the news on The View today. I don't know if you've seen the documentary Weed the People. I highly recommend seeing it.
I have not, but I'll write that down.
It's Ricky Lake, basically, talk show host Ricky Lake.
Ricky Lake.
She produced it. Her husband was a gangster. Right?
No, it was his passion project.
It was his passion project.
Yeah, it was just his passion project.
But he didn't. He died
of
something.
depression.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm a little high right now. I'm conflating my backstories. But basically, it's a look at medical cannabis for cancer. Neoblastoma being one of them. And she was on The View today, talking about the documentary. And Meghan McCain today said, my father's life could have lasted longer if he had used cannabis.
Oh yeah, I would have talked her out of that though.
She was furious that this.
Well, that's besides the point. But and I said that when he was, when they said, oh, this is what he's got, he's going down. I'm like, you should try cannabis.
We sent tweets.
That's one of the things that happens. We actually did tweet about it. Because that's when people do change their minds, is when a loved one is affected, and then all of a sudden this medicine comes in and it saves them.
So
and you notice. Yes, go ahead.
I mean, I know that's how it goes. I know that's how it goes, especially with something that is perceived as, well, it is illegal federally, but something that's only like recently been looked at as medicine or recently looked at as beneficial. I know that the taboo is there to not want to leap into the sunlight with it, but
Let's relook into it. Relook into it. Actually, Eli Lilly had the largest cannabis farm in United States.
So I grew up in central Indiana, and I have a lot of friends whose parents worked for Lilly Pharmaceutical, and they would all tell that story.
Yeah.
Like, once upon a time, you know, this fucking bullshit dope peddler used to have the largest
tinctures of cannabis. It's amazing. There was a story just in the last week or so that came out about that. It's and it became from an anecdotal, and they're in total denial about it too. They're like, nah, yeah, but
it used to be in everything, and it's going to be in everything again.
Oh yeah, which is
Throw him.
which is pretty disgusting that it's going to be in everything the way that it's going to be in everything.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's kind of
somebody out of jail who's in jail for cannabis use or cannabis distribution or any sort of cannabis crime out, and then we can move forward with everybody making money on it.
Well, and then you know, they say they want to get people from the traditional market into the regulated market, and but they throw taxes on here that are ridiculous. And the prices. I mean, look at Ohio. Ohio's paying $470 an ounce for medical cannabis last week.
So, I mean, right here in Santa Cruz, if you don't have a medical card, it's like $60-$70 an eighth.
Right.
Wow,
right.
yeah.
An eighth. Wow.
An eighth for recreational.
Yeah.
You know, and you can get lower quality cannabis for less money. You can.
That's nuts.
But okay, and that's where, and it's because of the way that Santa Cruz County decided to regulate. And now all of these growers and manufacturers of edibles and extracts and whatnot have to go through phase 3 testing, and it's designed to weed out small and medium growers. Prop 64 was written that way. It's the way that corporate. I mean, only California could fuck up selling weed.
Yeah.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
It's true.
Well, it's greed. It's you know, we I don't know if you know Hezekiah Allen. Do you know of him?
I know the name. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very much into co-ops and trying to get the small farmer together and to survive this corporate onslaught. But there is a new bill, Assembly Bill 1710, which is it hasn't been written yet, but basically it says we need to write a bill, we need to write a law that protects and helps lowers the barrier to entry to small farms and basically craft cannabis.
Who's the cannabis lobby group on that?
Well, that's Hezekiah is doing a lot. She's gotten a haircut and trimmed his beard, and he's putting on a suit, and he's doing a lot of lobbying himself up there in Sacramento. And I don't know if the business association is behind it, because part of what, and also because what a lot of what happened with. Go ahead.
Is the peer group behind it at all?
Which group?
The peer group.
Oh, and I'm not sure.
I mean, I know they're lawyers, but it seems like they should have branched into lobbying by now. Smart cannabis lawyers would.
There's obviously the cannabis industry has a pretty strong lobbying group moving forward. They got their events bill signed into law. The Compassion unfortunately died under Jerry Brown when he vetoed the tax break for companies that would basically give cannabis to people who need it, cancer patients or vets or
well, Jerry Brown is incentivized to do whatever is easiest for business, for management.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jerry Brown's been like that since he got his ass handed to him by Bill Clinton in the presidential election. Like, he got his head right with the neoliberal.
He triangulated, yes. He triangulated.
Yeah.
lived out.
Yeah.
And he is just, I mean, he's presided over California being the world's 5th largest economy with the kind of income inequality that we have here in Santa Cruz County. We're like the 4th most income inequal place in the fucking U.S.
Really?
Cavernous
Wow.
giant gap.
It's not that we have like this 4th highest rent, but in terms of overall wealth inequality, income disparity,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we're number 4, and it's one of those things where this ties in directly to the overregulation or the regulation written to punish the small and medium grower. Here, like I said at the beginning of the show, this is an area that is where cannabis is grown.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like if
Yeah.
you're in LA, you know about the Santa Cruz Mountains, or someone you know knows about the Santa Cruz Mountains.
All our grows are indoors down here.
Yeah.
They're all in houses and warehouses and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We try to buy our sun-grown
Yes, we do.
cannabis as much as possible from Northern California.
Yeah.
And
So,
and we're like I was saying, we're the number of permits issued for this particular area were 0 legal permits. We can have 0 legal grows in a place where, I mean, a good portion of the money it's been a green economy since the 60s.
It is funded schools. It's funded health care centers. It's funded a bunch of stuff over the years in the underground market.
is anybody, I guess you can't really talk about it, I would think, but you know, the medical law is still in effect that if you need your cannabis for medicine, you can grow as many plants as you need.
Yeah,
Are there-
so
Are there any
that's
seniors living together that might be growing lots of plants that way that they can get around stuff?
the problem with the collectives is that they're already the established collectives that have been here, you know, since the Prop 215 days.
Yeah.
And what they've been able to essentially do is corner a market and then absorb people.
Right.
Right.
So that's what their business model has been to Google everything, as opposed to allowing like independent operators under their banner.
Right. Right. Which would be the logical, which should be the way to equitably bring those folks into the system.
Well, I mean, they should be able to operate as
Hezekiah is talking about.
yeah. No, they should be able to operate as a boutique industry with a fucking a tiered rate. You know, if you're not going to be putting out 30,000 pounds every every time you harvest, then you should not have to pay like you're doing that.
Right, whatever the square footage is, or whatever I think what is it? I think it's New Jersey is going to go for $42 a pound. Is that what they're going to do? And they're supposed to be end up being the lowest taxation anywhere. But you know, there was a state
as opposed to $42 an hour.
as a $42, or I think it was a pound. But it's my point is the overtaxation and over the phase 3 heavy metals. I mean, people have been smoking Santa Cruz weed all across the country for a long time,
Since the 60s.
and you know, not a lot of people dropping dead from heavy metal poisoning. Not a lot of potheads going. As far
I'd like them to
as
do those
if there was a
same-
correlation, they'd find it. Believe
I'd
me.
like them to do those same tests for lettuce, please.
Yeah, for romaine,
Run
that
the
would be
same
nice.
tests.
Oh
on-
man.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, this is agriculture country, you know, right south of here too.
Yes.
Right.
So all of the diseases that grow on plants, that grow on lettuce, that grow on strawberries, that grow on wine. This is also wine country.
Yep.
You know, all of that. Now the commercial cannabis is either subjected to or it's going to have to be sprayed for.
Right.
And every single wine is tested positive with phosphate, the Roundup.
Oh, glyphosate?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just
Every single
nasty
one.
shit.
California one.
Because it's in the soil.
Yeah,
So
no, that's what a lot. That's what people don't understand. It's not just in the soil, but at that point, like it's in the pipes that carry the water.
Right.
So it eventually it gets in the water too. It's everywhere. One of our first guests, Lori, who lives here in town, is a fierce advocate against glyphosate and is trying to like get more people to be beekeepers and trying to bring the bee population back here, and we're down to because
mushrooms apparently
yeah
are great for bees.
yeah, bees love mushrooms.
Paul Stamets. I've been listening to a lot of Paul Stamets. I love learning about the amazing fungus, man. And apparently, there's a connection between mushrooms and bees that they can work together too. So yeah, we got to do something.
According to Paul Stamets, we're mushrooms, and I don't, I love Paul. There's very few mycologists that know more than that guy. He's entertaining as shit, man. He really is. I don't know if we are actually living mushrooms, but
right. Well, we branched off some that were back there somewhere, it's I think it's just a matter we're closer to fungus than we are to plants. Okay, all right, I can buy that.
And I appreciate the stoned ape theory.
Right.
For mostly because I'm a Bill Hicks fan, and I was first introduced to the concept of the stoned ape theory through that bit.
Well, if you look at cannabis too, I mean, if you look at the evolution of cannabis, it shows up in many places, in many texts, in some form, and in a lot of art, and it definitely was found, basically wherever human settlement has been found, cannabis has been found.
Yeah.
And it's basically evolved along with humans. So it's either humans want to get high, which apparently that's something that Terence McKenna has said, that basically humans have a
the nature of the mind is to expand.
Is to expand, right? Exactly. So, I buy it. Cannabis has been there throughout the ages, and as soon as they figured out how to use it in a medicinal way, they started using it.
What was the most recent thing they found? It was was it 2,000-year-old cannabis or 6,000? Like still preserved and smokable.
Really?
I mean, it could have been one of those like WorldNet daily articles. I didn't open it.
But that's some curing there, boy. I bet you. I wonder how good. That's some good weed, man. It was one of those good sealed Egyptian containers, man. Maybe it was.
We just heard in a talk over the weekend that a 13-year-old young woman in childbirth was using cannabis 4,000 years ago.
Okay.
Wrapped in her mummy.
I mean, I who could blame her?
Forever. And Santa Cruz?
So yeah, and again, it's one of those things that would be more beneficial if you had a property down south, not like necessarily out of area completely towards you, but in like Watsonville or Carmel River Valley kind of area where it's just more open and dry. Here in the redwood belt, there's just too much shit. You'd have to cut down too much in order to have a big, to go big enough to have an impact to do, because the whole, if they were doing it right, the entire Inland Empire would be hemp farm after hemp farm after hemp farm, with a hempcrete factory next to it, with another factory that was cranking out deck boards or whatever, and that, I mean,
that's great.
What's wrong with that?
Oh, that sounds amazing.
I don't know. The only thing that's stopping it is a slow-moving legislature, I suppose, or the capital to do it.
70 years of misinformation and prohibition.
Even in California, it's weird how people were happy about recreation for the wrong reasons and supported recreation for the wrong reasons. And a lot of that has to do with that misinformation, the Cheech and Chonging of the conversation. And
I love them, but damn it.
oh yeah. Yeah, no, I know.
And it hasn't stopped. The Melissa McCarthy movie we just watched.
Yeah, it's true.
They ate a bunch of edibles and destroyed a wedding. It's like,
Destroyed a wedding.
And then she immediately said,
it was the bark.
Which might have been the bark
The
that we ate.
bark.
The pot bark. And it's like, please.
It was terrible.
That is a shame.
We wrote a movie that does not shame cannabis.
That's right.
We wrote a great movie loosely based on your life.
And it's funny.
I do say so myself.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and that's because that's one of the, Weed to People is a great documentary, but, excuse me, she's going on The View because a lot of people don't see documentaries. Basically documentaries are for the choir, Everybody that already believes in the cause usually goes and sees the documentary, says, oh, that's a great documentary. And then maybe you get a handful of people out there that go and see it and change their mind, unless it's really an amazing documentary.
Well, they're going to Washington, D.C. I'm hoping that they're going to get
going to D.C.
groups of legislators together to be able to see it.
But what they do see are silly movies like Melissa McCarthy or Cheech and Chong or your typical Pineapple Express, Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
You're going to see that stuff where, of course, continues to
stereotype,
perpetuate. That's the word I'm looking for. The stereotypes. So we feel that we need to sort of combine them and get some real life information. High maintenance kind of does that a little bit in more of a cultural way, because it's not even so much about the pot. It's just that's part of the life, and that's that's kind of our script is a way to make the topic of Alzheimer's humorous in the journey, but also to educate people about the benefits of cannabis and its use for this and just daily life as well. So sort of get the information out there couched in a narrative that people will go see, and maybe a studio might actually get behind. We'll see.
Right.
That's awesome.
Or a streaming platform.
You want to give them the log line?
It's called Last Resort, and it's about a couple, a Hollywood couple whose life is shelved when mom is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, but she's kicked out of a nursing home for using cannabis.
All right.
Their last resort is to start a board and care for old stoners on a California cannabis farm.
Yeah, that's great. It is.
Well,
I'd watch that movie. I would watch that movie.
I'm buying your script.
That's actually become a reality. We'd love there to be a bunch of boarding carers that use cannabis and plant-based nutrition. The keto diet, vegetable-based, is really beneficial. Coconut oil is really beneficial. Cannabis is super beneficial. The Alzheimer's Association has given up on finding a cure. They're just trying to prevent it now and hoping for the best, and they refuse to talk about cannabis.
Yeah.
Even though they know that it helps.
Which is another reason why we have to get it off the schedules, so we can have some more research, despite the fact that there's plenty out there. Chela's got a big book, thick, that we went to lobby the Alzheimer's Association with the Alzheimer's Association to lobby the State House a couple weeks ago, and we talked cannabis to everyone we talked to.
Anyone who would listen.
Anybody would listen. Anybody we were supposed to go talk to about Alzheimer's, what they wanted, the association wanted, we also dropped that cannabis helps dementia, because it does, and there's science to back it up. We interviewed Dr. Ethan Russo at the Emerald Cup when we were there, and he talks about cannabis with Alzheimer's, not only with and Parkinson's, in a Forbes article last week that he was just interviewed for. So the science is out there, real science, that this plant is beneficial for this age group and this disease.
And in 100 years, there's been no advancement in treating this disease. So it's all desperation. And in California, there are 2 million people impacted by dementia. They all should be using some kind of cannabis.
And
And
in any
go out and start tomorrow.
in any state where it's legal.
And-
but in California, it's the third leading cause of death in California, whereas in nationwide it's the sixth leading cause of death.
And I've got an article up right now that from Civilized magazine, civilized.com, Civilized Life, and it's California may run out of legal cannabis by this summer.
I saw that. Yes, that was in our newsletter, DC420LA.com, a Cannabis Chronicle, this week. Yeah, it's they were worried about that before too. There's been threats and worries about this. Remember that when it's like we're going to destroy 300 billion pounds of marijuana.
Well,
first.
I mean, they've got 7,000 licenses that are set to expire and 9 legal farms.
Right, and Los Angeles just put down some barrier this week. They're voting on it on Friday, but they are so behind in cultivation and manufacturing and those kind of licenses in the largest market in the state. Yeah. They barely put out 197 licenses right now, and they're just getting into phase 2. Phase 3 isn't even on their fucking radar.
So here's the thing about that too. I was talking to one of the bakers here locally, and he couldn't work the entire month of January because the BCC had one email address that went nowhere. General dump email, apparently. They had a phone that rang that you could leave a message, and that was it. And they weren't even going to the labs to coordinate. They were 2-3 weeks behind coordinating with the labs before they could even come inspect a facility. So these guys aren't working. They can't make money legally. What the fuck are they supposed to do? You know, if you want to be compliant and you want to stay compliant, you're asked out. And it's set up, at least here, where so little permits have been issued, and every single property has been gridded over the last couple of years, that if they want to make an enforcement action out of it all over the state, it is primed and ready to go. They can roll up on these.
Gavin's got his troops ready. Gavin's got his troops ready.
So go into that a little bit.
Well, I think it was in the state of the state. Gavin Newsom basically said we're gonna pull the National Guard that were down on the border that I guess Jerry Brown sent down there, and we're gonna use them somewhere. A third of them we're gonna send basically to help deal with the illegal marijuana growing. The illegal marijuana crisis. Sorry, in the Emerald Triangle. Well,
in our state with legal cannabis.
Yes, he didn't specifically say humble, but of course he was.
Of course he meant.
He was pointing
exactly what we need.
And that immediately got everybody like, okay, here comes camp again.
Yeah,
we're gonna get the military on the ground.
I mean, that's how I heard it.
Yeah. It was not a mainstream source, of course. It was a independent news, one of the local papers up in Santa Rosa that was at a town hall and interviewed the local rep. And I can't think of his name right now, but he basically, people were asking him that, and he said, "What's going on? Is it going to be camp?" He says he doesn't think that's going to be what's happening. They've been promised resources for fire mitigation. But he thinks that's just, I don't know, he didn't actually say it was politics, but that's the way I'm reading it, is that basically this was a jab at Trump and a way to, I don't know what he's trying to do with the other end of that stick, but I think he might be trying to placate an industry that wants enforcement. Remember, this is neighbor on neighbor now.
Yeah.
This system has created a neighbor-on-neighbor system, or a result that a lawyer said today that like 80% of the people that are coming to her saying, or I know people come, they say, "How do I get legal?" And she says this, and they go 80% of them saying, "No thanks, I'll go somewhere else."
It's too expensive. The barriers are too high.
They should have just.
It's just not
They
possible.
should have done temporary permits to everybody that was, They should have figured out a way because they also delayed the collective report. They delayed the nonprofit report here.
Yep.
To basically wipe out, and then they made him illegal on January or on July 9th or whatever date that was. January 9th. They made collectives illegal. So
what are patients supposed to do?
now what are they going to do? Wait another year for the report to come out, and then the then they have a new set of rules to create a nonprofit collective system when everybody's dead.
Yeah. I think it's important to contact your elected representatives, all of them, your city council, your mayor, and all the way up to the governor. Send them postcards, send them letters. It's stories that change people's minds. So you got to write your story and you got to send it in. And I happen to know, we all happen to know, that this governor is sensitive to dementia stories. He has dementia story in his own family.
Right.
So if you can get people in your community to write their stories and send them into all their electeds, maybe you can have a letter writing night in your community or something. But I think that public pressure really is on our side because they all know that 92% of America is for at least medical cannabis.
The WHO is for it, the World Health Organization.
That's about to change.
The UN is delaying their report, their meeting, because of the US basically. So now the US is saying, well, we'll get more input from the FDA. So they've given people to March 14th.
Right.
To basically, so what should we tell the UN on cannabis scheduling?
And we'll send you the links.
Yeah,
so that people
I think I dropped the link in the, it's in your Twitter, but maybe you can drop it in the description later. But we have a few more days for that to get a lot of comments into the FDA.
And you can write letters too. You don't have to just do the electronic one.
Somebody will be in there, even though Gottlieb's out. Gottlieb has
somebody's going to be in
resigned.
Charge.
But somebody's going to be in charge of the CBD problem because that's going to be addressed. They delayed enforcement in that in a number of states because they legalized hemp. The CBD industry says, we're free, we're free. It's already in everything, and now they're going hog wild advertising it, and all of a sudden the FDA says, no, sorry, you can't do that. And so they're shutting people down or pulling products off the shelves, and of course they've been doing that, but then they've ramped it up. They've ramped it up now that they've got my authority. They left it under my authority.
Jesus.
So,
in a way, I think that maintaining one's traditional market is an act of civil disobedience. I was reading a story from New Jersey where it was a party, an underground pop-up of cannabis vendors, and it was pretty much all people of color. There was a couple, not people of color around, but it was mostly people of color, and that market is going to be around for a long time.
So
there's no intention of leaving.
And that's the thing. So here, it's got the same sort of mountain outlaw vibe that Humboldt does, that Mendo does, that Trinity does, and it's not like they're gonna run everybody out of town, but at the same time, these areas are being gentrified so heavily that the people who have been their third generation in on this with one family property are at the risk of losing it because of corporate cannabis. And it's just it again, man, California fucked up selling weed. We had a
good thing going here. Nobody was getting hurt.
Yeah, nobody was getting hurt.
The country was getting really good weed.
Yeah.
And everybody was the patients were getting medicine all throughout California because you could grow, massive home grows. The collective system was working just fine. Localities figured out a way to tax it. Were people paying all of their taxes? No, Donald Trump doesn't pay his fucking taxes. Okay, so it's this is a double standard. An IRS won another court case today. Basically, somebody, they said basically you can't audit us because you're trying to set us up for prosecution, and they said it doesn't matter. We're going to audit you anyway, even though you can't get you can't get business deductions like any other normal business. Yeah. We're still going to audit you and cause you problems. Yeah. The traditional market. There's still people that make moonshine. I met a few of them when I was on Django Unchained in New Orleans.
I did for years.
Yeah, it's people, you can make beer, you can make beer in your now you can make apparently now you can make cannabinoids with beer with yeast.
With yeast.
Yeah.
So how are they going to regulate that one?
Oh, and we did make a weed shine too. We did, yeah. We called it don't make
is a great medium to grow cannabinoids in.
we called it don't make any fucking plans.
Now, we are not proponents of mixing alcohol and cannabis. That is all in our experience.
Well, no, it only came in like an airline bottle. That's how we would bottle it, and
Right.
like
you get.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight up. It's what you need, and you don't need to make plans. Don't make any fucking plans.
Well, I think that kind of labeling and marketing is the way to go. Put that on the label, because right now we have and this has to do with education. You have these newbies, newcomers coming into the space, and they're trying to mitigate that by putting these ridiculous limits on milligrams in edibles.
Right.
In the stores. So once again, your patients are screwed because they got to buy, they got to go to the store every day to buy their limit or whatever, because they can only buy so much, and it's only you got to eat so much chocolate or become diabetic to get the amount of.
I was talking to a
medicine they
guy
need.
who he told me he walked off of Ambien and onto one-to-one cannabis medicine.
Okay.
But the little container is so small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tiny.
God.
He has to go to the store all the time. And to walk off of Ambien and onto cannabis with no side effects, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's incredible. I know a couple of people who have been prescribed Ambien that were like halfway out the door, in a bathrobe, barefoot in a snowstorm, and like if the dog hadn't have stopped barking, or if the dog hadn't have been barking, would have been out in the car like trying to drive, and that's that shit's crazy.
That's just crazy. That shit doesn't happen when you get high.
No, I want to drive less.
And you sleep like a baby. you find the right terpene profile. You find the right combination of THC to CBD. I'm really starting to feel like, and there was an article about that today. I think it was Leafly this last couple of days, talking about the misunderstanding of low THC cannabis, and that actually, with this rush to make 35% THC plants, there was a grower I met in Vegas a couple of years ago. That was basically, I'm putting up another 60,000 square foot warehouse, and I've got this one strain that does 35% THC, and that's all I'm going to grow.
Red Congolese.
Yeah, red Congolese probably was it. But within that rush to do that, your 1-to-1, and lower THC, higher CBD strains like
this one.
Like this one you got from
Harlequin
Flocana.
Tsunami. It's a Flocana Harlequin Tsunami. It's 12% CBD and 0.53 THC.
Oh wow.
I love it.
It's
It's
amazingly
nice,
smooth and elevating,
happy,
and
calm high.
it's really
Just lovely.
I think the rush to to THC. Sorry, I was incensing the.
It's all good.
It's overlooked. I mean, I think we need to look more into.
Says someone who was hot for
Oh
THC.
yeah, no, and I still am. Don't get me wrong, but
But you now are realizing.
I think finding the right flower and the right profile for what you need is what's needed, and we need more education. We need more science behind that. There's some good healer.com, and there's some good resources out there, but
The
we
Society
need more.
of Cannabis Clinicians.
Yeah, because there are doctors using medicine. I mean, it's used in 3 nursing homes up in Sebastopol and Santa Rosa area.
Yeah.
By Dr. Hergenrather. It's being used in nursing homes now in New York.
It's in every nursing home in Israel, although they're complicated.
It's of course
Israel's
complicated,
very
but
complicated.
they've been studying cannabis since it was called THC and CBD.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think they might have actually called it that.
They're the
but
ones.
they're the ones. So
Funded by NIDA.
Funded by NIDA.
Funded by NIH. Funded by us.
You know, one of the things that, like, I really opened my eyes outside. I was a fan of cannabis when I was in high school, like as a stoner kid. You know, it was,
Right.
but I didn't really start researching much into it past getting the Ed Rosenthal Grow Bible or. But I got a copy of Dan Baum's Smoke and Mirrors, The War on Drugs and the Politics of Failure. I think when I was like a senior, and that just, holy shit, just the detailed outline of how and why there's a war on cannabis and hemp, and it blows my mind that Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell were the guys that legalized hemp.
They're going to be the ones to bring you cannabis off the Schedule 1 too.
I agree with that. I do.
Oh shoot, then we can't bet.
And listen, you can't bet, but there's just, I think there's too much momentum right now. I think, and quite frankly, we bantered this around a little bit. If he wants to take an issue away from him, from the Democrats, Republicans have been embracing cannabis across this country. The GOP in Texas changed their platform to say cannabis should be descheduled.
Yeah.
Republican.
Yeah, because they're seeing dollar signs finally,
Sure.
but they're still
Sure.
not. They're not factoring in any of the lives that have been ruined by it or are still
Not at
being
all.
ruined by it.
Not at
It's
Some of
not.
them are seeing the medical benefits.
Yes, in
Some of them-
Tennessee,
Mhm.
a
Some of
Republican
them have,
lawmaker.
Kids who are autistic or have cancer, and that really sways them.
Yeah.
It really sways them.
It's going to be a combination to get it off the schedule. It's going to be pushed from the medical community because there is a narrative that says, oh, it's just alcohol. It's not actually a medicine.
Yeah, no.
So it needs to be a push from both ends, and that might push it over the goalpost, through into the the end zone. Whatever. I'm not a sports guy, so I have very few sports
It
metaphors.
might get us there.
But it might get us there, and he's already, Trump has already said he thinks medical marijuana it really helps people for some reason, and we should let the states deal with the other thing. And tomorrow, Tulsi Gabbard, along with Don Young of Alaska, are going to be introducing another bill outside. I was wondering why Gabbard was not co-sponsoring Barbara Lee's Marijuana Justice Act that they just both introduced in the House and the Senate. Now I realize why is today that Young and Gabbard tomorrow are going to introduce a bipartisan bill to take it off the schedule on federally and to let states do what they want after that. So that's kind of a combination of the States Act, which Cory Gardner and Warren have been working on. Gardner and Warren was the States Act.
States Act.
But now the Marijuana Justice Act that Booker has put out, and the senators are all on board, all the ones running for president now, Bernie being first. Of course, he's been on the case for a while, but it looks like, with all of this momentum, with a way to take 96% of the country want medical cannabis. The research acts or the bills that are coming up right now, as far as Republicans go, they're bringing up research acts that say we need to research this more. So those are already coming up. The finance bill, the bill in the banking and the finance committee is making its way. The SAFE Act that has bipartisan support, sort of.
I spoke to somebody the other day who says he has a lobbyist friend in Washington,
and the banks want the money.
So I don't.
He wants to trade it. It's going to happen. We just can't lose the medical. That's the thing. And home grow. We can't lose home grow.
Let me ask you about this because I know that it's fairly. There's only a few states that don't make medical patients disarm.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know where you guys stand on gun ownership or not. I'm that part of the left that thinks if we're going to have homeless, we need to arm them and then give them maps to where the oligarchs live and, just kind of let nature run its fucking course.
I'm a heads on pike guy kind of guy too.
Word.
So I'm a big fan of the
Yeah, I'm a vegan who wants to eat the rich.
Okay, word. But so I don't I think I think it sets a weird precedent, because as long as cannabis is still federally even if they make it federally legal, it's still in most states illegal to have both a gun and cannabis.
In all states.
It's
In all
because
states.
Right.
it's on the federal
So
firearms
is that the super low key way to disarm the American public, is give them legal cannabis and then take away their guns one at a time?
I think that's a fascinating theory.
That's an interesting thought. I think it would be easier to get the NRA on board cannabis and just have the rule changed. Because all they got to do is change the rule, and it's super easy to just change the rule.
You're allowed to own a gun if you're on OxyContin.
Yeah,
Right.
no
As far as I know.
Yeah.
But it also,
They
you know,
don't ask about
the
OxyContin.
form does say, do you abuse other drugs? I mean, you know, so if you are, you know, if you're taking, you know, if you're not taking OxyContin the way you should be taking it, you're technically breaking the law too.
Yeah.
And every medical cannabis patient that has bought a gun has signed that form.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they're all breaking federal firearms laws by doing that.
But
So
the
it's a good.
reason they say
debate.
is because marijuana is federally legal. If it were not federally illegal, it would be in that if you abuse all these drugs category.
Right.
And it wouldn't just be a blanket, you can't use it.
Right, because it's more of a blanket for
That's
marijuana
right.
now, or illegal
I
drugs.
do props and set dressing, and in props I have to handle weapons all the time, and I had to have a license for a while, and that was sort of an issue because, you know, I use
But
Right,
this is being
right.
debated. It's being debated this week in West Virginia because the laws are changing in West Virginia. So that topic is coming up again. As soon as a cannabis legalization law comes to town, this is the next conversation in specifically in states like in the Midwest. In Ohio, it's being talked about. In strong gun rights states, and in the South, you're hearing that's a big concern. So I think it's more because, like you say, the GOP is on it for money and freedom and liberty, which is the way we get more of them on board.
Yeah, appeal to their libertarian roots,
which goes along with gun rights. So you're gonna, you know, I think it's going to be easier to change that form on a federal level than you know, and mitigate any issue with regards to a gun grab, because people are lying about that anyway. They're all breaking the law anyway when they're filling out their form if they're in a legal marijuana state. So it's not having that effect now, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, people who have to fill out the form,
What have I got?
people who have to fill out the form will probably just relegate themselves to the traditional market. I have a friend who's officer of the court, and they don't go to any dispensary ever.
Right. Because
They use the traditional market.
They don't want to be on a list.
Right. No, exactly. I mean, that's why I never got a card. I grew up, like I said, I grew up in central Indiana. It wasn't just a little illegal where I grew up. It was really fucking illegal, and it still is. And
yeah,
I grew up rolling my parents' joints.
even though your governor smoked, or the governor smoked weed in college and is admitted to it last week.
right. It's just, it's fucking ridiculous. And I don't but it's also the place that gave us not just Mike Pence but Dan Quayle and, you know, just a host of fucking idiots.
Pence was in the presence of 30,000 pounds of marijuana at the DEA last week. It was wondering if some guy said, "Hey, that's my bundle over there." What the fuck?
You know what, dude? If he could smoke
I was
that,
wondering why that didn't make it.
he could smoke it, and then maybe he could relax, and all that time that he spends running from those gay thoughts, he could just he could just kind of like kick it a little bit and enjoy life.
You might end up roller skating in dolphin shorts. You never know.
Dude, hey, like good for. He needs.
Totally do it, man. I think if everybody starts using some form of cannabis, a lot of silliness is going to go away because we'll have a little more of a collective feeling.
Willie Nelson used to talk about how like world peace could only be achieved if you funneled hash into the vents at the UN.
I think more politicians definitely need to be bold and actually try this, effective and non-harmful plant in some form. There's a Utah state representative that did that when he went to Colorado. He tried a gummy.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
I think more politicians need to be bold about with that, as opposed to just trying to, get on a platform, a platitude, and say, "Oh, I'm for legalizing marijuana. It's part time." Da, 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 da. Now I hashtag that. Like Beto just came out last week and said, "Oh, we definitely should legalize marijuana." It's like,
that fucking guy. Do you have any? Do you have any election predictions? Do you see this going one way or another?
You talking about the Democratic primary?
Cannabis 2020.
Yes,
that's what's going to win.
That's what's going to win. Cannabis will definitely win in 2020. That I can predict.
That's our election prediction.
With regards to the other thing, with the cast of characters, I'm encouraged by the Daily Kos straw poll.
Okay.
That got Bernie 55%. I'm pretty sure the mainstream media will stop talking about that now. Now that he's in the running, they're gonna. Well, I want to see.
Did you see where Marcos came out and was like, "Oh, but they cheated and it's not real. They didn't really win by that much because I left it this way and." You could go incognito and vote as many times as that whiny little fuck. Dude,
oh my God.
I remember years and years ago, and this is sad looking back on it now, but years and years ago I was one of the cool kids on the Daily Kos, and like it pains me to know that I went through that and I wasn't super cheerleading for centrist Democrats. That wasn't what I was writing, but still, like, it's just the Daily Kos to me is just such a fucking weird spot because he went, and I'm sure you.
A while ago.
Oh well, I'm sure you guys know this, but maybe some of our listeners don't. In 2016, in the primaries on the Ides of March, Marcos Matsula Mustache, whatever, made an ultimatum to his website, to the people who wrote on his website, if you don't get behind the presumptive nominee, I'm fucking banning your account. You're gone. Oh. And he purged so many people quit voluntarily, just gone, if they would not toe the line for fucking Hillary Clinton and his fucking, his little fucking, oh God, his little Himmler. And this guy, Armando. I don't know if you're familiar with that dude or not. He's on Twitter as Armando D. Kos. He's almost a parody of the most douchebag centrist you could think of, like how our buddy Pat does the Peter Douche's liaison thing. Right. He's like that in real life. Like loves his wealth and privilege and insider access, or what he believes to be insider access through the Daily Kos. Nobody's telling this motherfucker anything important. I guarantee you that.
What do you think the switch is? There's a switch that goes off in these guys. That it's like they start with doing good stuff. They start being, you see that in a lot of these progressive.
Kos has always been an egomaniacal bastard, though, man. Kos, he named his website after himself. All of his merch has his fucking name on it. And before Netroots Nation or whatever they call it now, it was the Yearly Kos. That dude has put his name on as much shit as Donald Trump to scale per capita.
Hey, listen. So back on the cannabis topic, I think because they haven't named the Marijuana Justice Act yet. It's got some weird name because they just introduced it, so there's no text and there's no official name for it.
Okay.
I think I have a name for it that'll get it passed.
Oh yeah.
We call it the total repeal of unfair total repeal of unfair marijuana policy. That would be the Trump Act. And we would get it passed in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Total repeal of Unfair Marijuana Policy Act.
Okay.
The Trump Act, it'll be signed and passed in 2 minutes. I think that's what we should do.
I thought
Instead
that
of the Marijuana Justice Act, I'm just putting it out there. But
I thought that
you're
Trump could have
talking about
gotten
egos, and I think you think that's what this is, and because that something happened, right? I mean, somebody played into his ego, or played like. And Cenk Uygur, is he the same category?
Cenk Uygur is a libertarian fucking grifting piece of shit, dude.
Right.
And I mean that like seriously. I have been aware of and around and onto that motherfucker for a long time. And what he's done with his network is I'm sure it's great for his pocketbook. But what he's done is shown progressives in real time how the Democratic Party operates in independent media now.
Yeah.
And how a grift or how a movement gets co-opted. You can watch it happen in real time on their show, where all of
talk about sheepdogging.
It's not even sheepdogging anymore. I mean, it's blatant vocal outright cheerleading.
Neera Tandon's on the show.
I saw that, and I haven't watched it yet because I haven't had time. But I know he had Aaron Matei on, and I from what I understand, Aaron tore him a new asshole on Russiagate. But Cenk is going to do exactly what Rachel Maddow does and exactly what fucking Dave Weigel does and all those other fucking morons. And they're just going to, they're in the face of facts, they're going to do what everyone who is faced with their faith being confronted.
Right.
And they're going to deflect, they're going to retreat further into their corner, and they're going to put out more fierce content that supports what they need to hear about their faith. Russiagate has become almost a belief system at this point. It really has.
It's changing. It's not Russiagate anymore, bro. They changed the narrative. It's been 2 years. They have to change the narrative now, and it's happening. It's just like they did with the Iraq War. How it was Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah.
No, it was about saving the people, and then it became about saving the oil.
Yeah.
So, they're changing the narrative because they knew it was all bullshit anyway.
Well, they're doing it so seamlessly without the slightest fucking bit of introspection as to, hey man, we just sold this shit to people for 2.5 years. We were wrong. We knew we were wrong. Or if we bought it, if we believed it, we only believed it because it helped our ratings.
It just goes to show you how pliable the corporate media is. How they can just, depending on the waves of their masters, the money corporate masters that are putting the money in, whether it's the military-industrial complex or big pharma or whatever it is, they're being told their narrative on both sides. You watch that happen in real time too. When you went from the Obama attacking Fox to now state news of Trump, and you saw MSNBC become Alex Jones.
We're rewriting real time. Real time is being rewritten in front of us, and we have to combat that. And it's really fucking weird. But more to your point, it shows you what corporate media has done to independent media, how it has co-opted that the whole collusion and the moving the goalposts. That's happening ostensibly in a lot of lefty publications, there's that, and then
collusion in the 2016 election, but it was on the Democrats' side.
Right.
Add that to the fact that Rachel Maddow does a show last night about
crime in Brooklyn. Actually,
yeah, and there was
actually voter fraud in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
300,000 voters. So forget collusion.
When the Board of Elections itself is like, oh yeah, we purged those votes. Suck it.
What?
I like what you guys were saying with Tim Canova. When you had Tim Canova on your show, it's like, they're gonna, the machines are fucking rigged. They're gonna steal the shit anyway.
We have to work outside of electoral politics, which
Yeah.
is why we embraced cannabis.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. I think uh, as we go forward into 2019, the people who can tear themselves away from the never-ending clusterfuck lead up to the primary. Like, and I know that there's people who are really dedicated to that. I've definitely got friends who are jumped right on board with Tulsi's campaign, jumped right on board with Bernie's campaign, or like, I even got a friend who,
campaign.
what's that?
Yang, have you seen?
I was gonna say I have one friend who's trying to open up a field office here in Santa Cruz for
Awesome.
Andrew Yang.
I want
gave him some money.
I want to
$4.20.
The only ones I care about seeing on that stage. I was going to do the whole. I was going to be English for a minute when Bernie wasn't in. We knew he was coming, but I was going to try to hold off to like the last 2 weeks before I paid attention to everything. But then he got in. But Yang is the only guy talking about universal basic income, and he's the only guy that's talking about that these jobs aren't actually coming back. And
Can we talk about UBI?
Jobs to automation under Obama, and now we're going to lose another 6 million jobs in the service industry and in trucking and in movement like that to automation, and those jobs aren't going to be coming back either. He's the only one talking about it.
Can we talk about UBI for a second, though, man? Because I don't. Universal basic income is a Cato Institute policy paper from 1983.
It's true.
It's standalone universal basic income is a fucking nightmare, because what happens with it is it replaces the social safety net. It replaces and that's all of it. It replaces housing and urban development as an institution. It replaces.
It could, yes. It could be made to be that. Yes, it doesn't have to be.
Like libertarianism.
It is. It's peak libertarian. So what you need, what Andrew Yang hasn't mentioned whatsoever, and what I would love to be able to ask Andrew Yang is, why the fuck haven't you incorporated a jobs guarantee with your universal basic income? And the MMT crew has like a very detailed plan to do this. Stephanie Kelton has a map for it. Warren Mosler has a map for it. Rodolfo Cortez, who I'm trying to get on the show, Green Party candidate, he's got a roadmap. John Axum, who was on the show, who is the founder of the Fight for Federal Jobs Guarantee. Like, they've got this down. They're brilliant people behind it.
What jobs are they thinking they're going to guarantee?
So here's what a federal jobs guarantee is. It's a nationwide program that the jobs are. I'm going to explain this probably poorly as a layman. This is how I understand it, okay? If you wanted a job doing an infrastructure project,
right,
or habitat restoration, but anything that there is already currently like a state or federal employment for, there is a job for that industry. If you need to help code for your Medicare, your local fucking universal healthcare provider, if you shit like that, like, there will be a federal job that takes up to 26% of any given area's workforce. I'm saying that wrong.
I see. So, okay, so
I'm saying that wrong. I am. It starts at like 2%, but it takes up a minute.
I get the gist. I get the idea you're talking about. It would basically be a requirement that they would have to.
It replaces unemployment as a counter-inflationary measure. Right now, unemployment is baked in. Like they say, we're at full employment right now. There's still a fuck ton of people out of work.
Right. Sure. Yeah, because that's one of the things that he argues, and I think one of the things he argues, and MMT might be part of that conversation. One of the things he talks about is we need to start looking at metrics that make sense as opposed to ones that don't mean anything anymore.
Well, if we're gonna have this imaginary fiat currency,
and the GDP being another one.
Yeah, and if we're gonna operate on a fiction, if we're gonna operate on free-floating fiat currency. Why not use it to benefit the 99%?
As opposed to the 1%.
As opposed to the 1%.
Since it was created.
Yeah.
Like you said, we've been using MMT, which just hasn't been called that. It's been called figure out a way to get all the money from the working class and get it to the rich people. Is what it's been. And how to, it's socialism for the rich, right? And
Jeff Epstein from Citizens Media TV was on Ron Placone's show like a while back. It was the first time he was trying to explain MMT, and he said something brilliant that I think flew by a lot of people just because it was a weird interview. But he said, what we have right now is MMT for the rich, rugged neoliberalism for everyone else.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's true. Well, see that it's something. Well, see that either whether you so maybe you don't call it a UBI. He's trying to couch it in like they do with Alaska. So they get a dividend from the oil companies. Everybody gets a check every year. It's a dividend. So it would be a dividend based on the GDP for every citizen for being basically a shareholder in this country, as these mega corporations and everybody else makes all this money. These banks. Okay, let's give a little bit back to people so that they don't necessarily have to have unemployment, but certainly, I think he talks. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to listen to him again, and that's why I want to hear him in the debates. Yeah. Is that there's something about basically you don't necessarily replace these services, but if you don't need them beyond this, anyway, he needs to explain it better because I'm not explaining it very well either. But I want to hear this conversation on the debate stage about how, okay, if you have a federal jobs program like Bernie wants, he wants a jobs program, as I recall.
Yeah.
What jobs are you talking about? Because there aren't going to be trucking jobs. There aren't going to be
construction jobs,
service jobs.
So okay, and I agree with that. I do. I don't know if
lawyers are going away.
I don't know if so. Here's the thing: you can work with. If you have universal basic income and you just give into automation, if instead of 8 to 18% of the workforce by 2024, it's fucking 80% of the workforce. Right. If you give into that, then at that point you are redefining what work is.
Right.
You have to. You have. There's no other way that you can address that situation, and I don't think that we have responsible enough actors in Washington to address that situation. I don't think that these are serious people. I think that they are seriously corrupt people.
Well, they're stuck in their old ways of thinking. It's the same with cannabis. There needs to be a paradigm shift at the FDA. You can't get a phase 3 trial of plant cannabis through the FDA. The phase 3 has to be something that they're going to sell ready to go to patients. There's variations in cannabis, so there's no way to do that. So there's that. So that paradigm, they can't wrap their head around plants. Same with the law enforcement. Oh, the driving. What did the idiot Woods tweet out this week? Chronic cannabis. I don't want somebody a chronic user driving on the highway. Actually, I would much prefer a chronic user to be driving on the highway than a first-time user or somebody that's had a couple of beers.
Yeah.
So
me too. You can't. How are you gonna know? Like I eat edibles like I'm Joey fucking Diaz. Like I really do, and I would love to meet him, and I would love to have an edibles eating contest with that motherfucker. I think I could floor him, okay? And I weigh like $160, but I seriously, um, how you know if you can only have 20 milligrams of THC in you and be legally allowed to drive, or I don't know how you determine that,
Well, they can't
because
count
I
that
can
metric.
eat
Doesn't
600
work.
and drive.
Yeah,
Right.
doesn't
Fine.
work.
And kids that are being treated by their parents. You know, they have a lot of cannabis in their system also. But the drug recognition expert I had a chat with outside the governor's office when we went to Sacramento is an expert in drug impairment recognition, and he trains rooms full of other sheriffs how to do it. And
What?
he knew nothing about tinctures.
What?
Didn't
Nothing about tinctures.
never heard of him.
What are tinctures?
Wow. I want to mention this.
Oh, and he said I wasn't impaired. I said, oh, thank you. I know I'm not impaired. Thank you so much. I've used cannabis today. I didn't tell him that, but I'm not impaired. Thank you very much.
But they're trying to do this breathalyzer nonsense, which is a big
Won't gonna
fazool. They're trying to do the strips,
Swab.
the swab. That's already being challenged. There's
Do
no.
not consent.
I love the Pot Brothers at Law. If you guys, those guys are great. It's just like more people get into trouble because they tell cops way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't answer questions.
Do not consent.
I don't answer questions.
Don't answer questions. Don't discuss your day and
Be polite.
be polite.
I wanna go back to what you were saying about the debates. I do think it would be very interesting to get all of those ideas on the same stage. I don't think
Tulsi
for a
Gabbard,
second that the DNC will allow Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Andrew Yang on the same debate stage. I think they will copy the model that the RNC did in 2016. They'll have the big kids table. They'll have the little kids table. We'll make sure that Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang are on it. They might even fucking do like they did fucking Ron Paul and make like Tulsi Gabbard or Andrew Yang fucking live tweet from Twitter headquarters instead of being allowed at the debate. They might handcuff somebody like they did Jill Stein, but I don't think they'll ever fucking let the peace candidate, the Medicare for all candidate that's serious about it, and the universal basic income guy on the same debate stage. I think that they'll artificially inflate poll numbers, or that they will they're obviously going to go by poll numbers, but I think they'll cut the number of people on a debate stage if they have to.
They'll move the goalpost, because right now the goalpost is so many contributions, so much money from so many states.
That's just to participate.
They claim this isn't going to happen. Now, Yang said he had a conversation with the DNC. They said they've already.
On Joe Rogan?
It was on. I didn't. This wasn't on Joe Rogan. No, this was on a Fox interview.
Oh.
And he says the DNC's contacted him, and their plan is that he implied that he was already there and that he's going to be there, but then he backtracked on that on his website. But he said that what they're going to do is it's going to be a random drawing. There's going to be 2 debates, 2 nights in May and 2 nights in June. It's going to be random as to be who's going to be on which stage, on which night, out of how
random my eyeball.
And now of the people that meet the criteria. Now, are they going to change that when everybody meets it? When Tulsi meets it and Yang gets his 50,000, or Marianne Williamson meets it? Are they going to change the goalpost? That's, I think, entirely possible, and then or fix it or put their thumb on the scale in some other way.
They will. I guarantee they will. But whatever, I still played the little reindeer game, and I gave everybody $4.20.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not trying to discourage people from that, man. I think that it would be great if they were all on the same debate stage. I don't trust them.
No. They're gonna because they still remember. I think the first thing they're doing is they're flooding the field.
Yeah,
they're saying everybody in. That way, Bernie doesn't get 51%.
Right,
goes to the second vote at the convention.
Absolutely,
do it.
They're going to screw Bernie.
They're going to screw Bernie.
Yeah,
sure.
Unless he gets 51%.
Even still.
And even still,
you have to get 80% for them to not screw him.
Technically, if he gets 51%, that's a done deal.
I think they'll fuck around with it if it's that close.
Oh no, if it's
thinks they've learned their lesson.
if
Bernie
it's
said it
between
too. Bernie
50
said
and
it too.
52%, if that's how narrow of a margin it is coming in, they will find a way to take that 2-3% away from him.
Sure.
And, it will,
Oh, yeah.
and is Joe Biden, so Kamala Camilleri is doing so poorly out there in the world.
Right.
You know, she really
California.
is a clone of Hillary Clinton. Like, the more people get to know her, the worse she does with people. And are they holding Biden back as like okay, if it looks like Bernie's really going to get that 55% like the Daily Kos said, then we will unleash.
We thought that's what Hillary might end up doing.
Well, no, I don't think so. But I do think that they've got Grandpa Grope-Between back there in the wings for fucking in case they.
Well, the media is saying that.
I think that I think Biden doesn't want to do it. I think that's the problem. That's my gut instinct, because he is Mr. Gropinator, and it's not a good look right now. And there are a lot of pissed off pussy-hatting women that would not want to see the pictures of him grabbing every single person.
They were more than happy to put
He's
Me
gonna
Too
have to
on
have a
hold
woman
when
be
George
president. So
when George H.W. Bush died. They put Me Too on hold that whole week. They didn't give a shit.
true.
They'll fucking
That's
put
true.
Me Too on hold for Bill Clinton every time he gets up. You know,
and look who the president is. I mean, come on.
yeah.
So that's really not, that's not necessarily a thing, especially in those states where they think he's going to win. In Pennsylvania,
He's
where they
also
need
a
him to
white
win.
guy. Bernie's not a white guy.
Well, it's a narrative, though. The narrative is that he's not Jewish enough to be a Jew.
Right, he's not Jewish enough. Bernie's so
Talk
Jewish.
about anti-Semitic.
Bernie's so Jewish.
Oh my God! People who say that, seriously.
I didn't see. I had to work all day before I got here. I didn't see. Did they withdraw
He's
this?
obviously cheap because he doesn't buy a new coat every year.
Right. I think he's trolling at this point. Did you see if they went ahead with the censure of Ilhan Omar? Did that?
They held it off today. I heard they held it off. I heard they held back. They added a Muslim area to it, so that they
added a bunch of stuff to
Islamophobia.
it.
They added Islamophobia stuff to it, and then it got stopped. And it got
What
stopped.
a crock of shit! In order to prove that the Israeli lobby doesn't have undue influence in Congress,
They have undue influence. Yeah.
They fucking twist the arm of some Congress critters, and all of a sudden there's a.
They can't wrap their head around these people, man. They can't. They can't wrap their head around these young people. You know.
We should absolutely have a conversation, just like they all said. We should have a conversation about this stuff. Yes, we should.
But it's not going to be a genuine conversation if you're weaponizing anti-Semitism, and this is something that Lawrence Steiner was guilty of. Lawrence Steiner went and called out Ilhan Omar for engaging in anti-Semitic tropes that people went and just swam for, to fucking find a way to make it anti-Semitic. And when you weaponize it like that, and it's something that happens within far-right Zionists, and especially those in the Knesset, in the Likud, that are part of the criminal enterprise that now charged with crimes Benjamin Netanyahu represents as the president of that political party and that school of thought. And
not to be glib, but why should today be any different?
Yeah,
they're found guilty of crimes in the UN all the time, and nothing is ever done.
And this anti-Semitic bullshit has been happening the same way all the time. Everybody calls anybody anti-Semitic if they criticize Israel. So I'm glad that it's really being talked about for a change.
I think you said maybe on a show that any religious state, any apartheid state is no good. I don't necessarily think the Islamic Republic of Iran is a good idea either. I think government should stay out of the secular and out of the religious. And when you're using a religion based on where you were born, essentially, is what determines our religion, what family you're in and where you were born, and using that as a real estate agent to determine where you're gonna move people and move other people out, I think that's the wrong way to look at things. despite their great successes in cannabis science. The scientists have sort of often made a point of staying out of politics in most regards in Israel. And I respect them for that. But unfortunately, the same thing is going on in Israel right now is going on in Canada. There's a lot of prohibitionists and people that who have benefited for prohibition and locking people up are getting into the cannabis business, and so are the war criminals in Israel getting into the cannabis business.
I saw an article, maybe you posted it, but I was reading I read an article about that, about Israeli advances in cannabis and something. Is it now that the IDF gets to smoke?
Oh, with regards to that, I hadn't heard about that. I know Canada gets to do it. They get to do it off duty with their as long as you don't fly a plane or have anything critical, they can indulge. I didn't necessarily hear that about Israel. I know they are going to start exporting a shit ton of medical cannabis beginning by the end of this year. They just going to
buy their cannabis, but I'm still using their research. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Boycott the research.
Yeah, and you can. That's the thing. That's actually what the Truth Dig article made a mention of. The guy who wrote it is in California, but he pointed out that Ehud Barak is part of a very large cannabis consortium in Israel, and making money. And he put it couched it in the BDS conversation that we should not support these companies that profit off of the apartheid state and the circumstances.
Yeah, while it's still legal, boycott and divest.
While we can still do it, right?
Yeah.
We can do that, but luckily in California we can do that. There's plenty of great California companies that are growing amazing sun-grown cannabis that are in the space. When we do participate in this market, we always support Northern California sun-grown cannabis. We try to support those that are involved in co-ops and companies like Flocana, which is trying to do that. They're trying to pull together small growers, as well as other. There's a co-op law in California that basically allows them to do this now. So we need to make sure the laws in this United States and in California, California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. We need to make sure that our laws are protecting patients, not taxing so much that people are going to stay more in the traditional market, and try to get other states to do it the right way. Michigan is allowing home grow in a pretty good way, in a pretty big way. So there are states. Oklahoma is doing it pretty good. Missouri, unfortunately, they passed a medical marijuana bill, and now they're trying to pass a law to vote on it again to repeal it.
Yeah.
In the next election. So you have your retractors, you have your prohibitionists, you have Sam and those guys that just keep bringing up the same old stuff, and you have corporate cannabis, and that's really what's going to happen. I think that's the way it's going to happen federally, and we just need to make sure that people that have suffered under prohibition either get some kind of leg up, or at least get their records expunged, or
absolutely.
Small growers have an opportunity to enter the space.
And small growers have they should have. What is it? Jody Emery up in Canada, and I'll let you finish up it. Basically said they should have just taken the existing system and given them licenses, and then gone with that, and then just polish that as you go, But they decided to just completely destroy the system that was set up, create a whole new corporate system with limited growers, monopoly, essentially a government monopoly.
With former government officials running this company.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what we have that too. We have that here with fucking John Boehner. We have you're gonna see Mitch McConnell as part of some large fucking hemp consortium as soon as it's
absolutely. We just have to keep pushing back against it, because right now it's such a glorious time, I think, because the contrast is so stark, the hypocrisy is so right in everybody's face, that even those who really want to just maintain the status quo can't help but be like, man, this shit ain't right.
Yeah.
So it's time to have all these awkward and hard conversations and try to be open to other people and letting people step in it a little bit and allow themselves to come back. As long as it's not hurting anybody, let's let people fuck shit up a little bit in the conversation of it, so that we can get to better laws. And we have to put our stories forward to all of our elected officials so that they understand what's going on, especially those of us who are in California.
Yeah.
It's legal here, so we can tell our stories now. And that's why, so we started this Al's Notes, which is a care gap training and plant-based education for dementia caregivers. Well, we started it as just care gap training because we got this great training through my mom's experience that really changed our lives and made us much better caregivers. But what is part of what made us much better caregivers is that we also used cannabis on her.
Yeah.
And now that it's completely legal and there's so much science behind the fact that cannabis helps dementia, we are loud and proud about it wherever we go. Because people living in relationship with dementia cannot wait for corporate cannabis or, you know, big pharma to figure out how to make money on it. They need help today.
Yeah.
So that's what we're here to do, is to put that out there. And with our show, we try to put out into the world what we want to see. So we don't show a lot of the reefer madness stories. We don't show a lot of the busts. We don't show the,
Right.
you know, the shootout near my neighbor's house. We don't, you know, we don't show the shitty stuff. We show the good stuff and how stuff is moving forward and how we can move things forward.
And how patients and you know, children, young kids from in every state. There's always stories every week about patients that are looking for relief and a lot that are fighting. We interviewed Alexis Bortel for an hour on our show on Super Bowl Sunday. 13-year-old amazing cannabis refugee in Colorado that is suing the federal government. And is an amazing activist and farmer, and you know, and another one, Riley in Maryland is going to be coming out to California. So there's all these stories of people getting relief with this plant, despite where they are on a level, and even in some states like Tennessee. And in the South and in Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia has just changed some of their laws today to open up their list. And these lists are bullshit, and these no home grows. This is
fucking tyranny.
This is corporate cannabis and big pharma at its greatest. This is tyranny. This is, you cannot grow your medicine, and you know, and listen, anybody that sells cannabis, no matter what market they're in, they don't want home grow either. They don't really want people allowed to grow their own either. But we can't allow that.
But I can't really grow as much as I'm going to use. Allow me to make my little hobby. Don't worry, I'm always going to buy cannabis. But people just can never buy cannabis unless they grow it themselves. So you know what? Great. You know, it should not be a thing.
Shouldn't be a thing.
And I really feel like we're at a tipping point about it. So we just have to make sure to educate our elected officials, like the senator in Tennessee. Her bill is no home grow right now, but it's still in its infancy. It's not even out of committee. So we could certainly reach out to them and appeal to her. She's a rural, little tiny town, rural district in Tennessee. She understands, she's all about liberty and growing your own stuff and doing what you want to do as long as it doesn't hurt your neighbor. So appeal to that with these folks. So find where you can find the common ground. Cannabis brings people together, and it allows us to make strides that we otherwise never would have. So whatever it takes, we need to get cannabis into more people's hands, hearts, and minds.
Oh, that's good.
So that we
That is good. That's well done. Yeah.
I like that.
My first time ever saying it. It just came out. So, but really, that's really the crux, the motivating factor behind Reefer Revolution is that this is a revolution. We are at a tipping point, and because we're gathering this news and just checking it out ourselves. You know, we had our alerts up, and we were like, "Oh wow, God, all this great news!" And then we would watch the regular corporate crazy town. Dave was a news junkie. News, and none of this shit was on the news, and we're like, it's everywhere, but it's not where most mainstream people find it. So, like, all right, here it is. So we do our little show.
But you can find it at Reefer Revolution Live.
Actually, if you go, you can go. If you type in www.reeferrevolution.us, it'll take you right to our YouTube channel. But we're on YouTube, but we also stream on Periscope, Twitch, D-Live, and Weed TV, the Cannabis Media Network. So we're multi-streaming with the Restream app, trying to get it out to as many platforms as possible because we don't know about YouTube. We're quite frankly, we can't monetize on YouTube.
Right. Yeah, I've never tried to monetize this channel. It seemed pointless.
So, we do Patreon, we do this Streamlabs. We fumble through it because we're new to all of this. But essentially, we do this for the love of the plant, the medicine, and trying to educate people. And we basically, somebody said it to us, in this new space, this cannabis space, what do you want to do? Was, well, you take what you do and then you add cannabis. So,
yeah.
So we're media people. We're backgrounders in film and television. So we wrote a screenplay. We use cannabis medicine in our Alzheimer's journey, and we try to educate people through media and be this sort of a new media for this new normal, as MedMen would call it in their 2-minute film,
right?
AKA commercial.
Super slick commercial.
With George Washington growing his own hemp in his yard, by the way.
Yeah.
In the opening image of their 2-minute history of cannabis prohibition, is George Washington growing his own hemp. So I think every American should be allowed to grow their own cannabis, sell it at the farmer's market. It should be like tomatoes, which didn't always have its easy path in America as well.
The tomato?
Yeah, we always say that cannabis should be treated like tomatoes, but did you know tomatoes were not edible and legal in the United States?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Prohibition.
That's correct. There was a tomato prohibition. There were radical tomato growers.
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson was a radical tomato grower.
Yeah.
Not many people consume tomatoes in the United States. And as a matter of fact, a politician in a political stunt after a county fair, because they were grown for ornamental value only. They weren't grown to be eaten. And at a county fair, he said, "I'm going to eat a tomato on the steps of the courthouse tomorrow." 2,000 people come out to watch him die from eating a tomato.
All right.
Died.
Oh, well, that's fucking lackluster.
And from that point on, tomatoes started to be more popular in the United States. But there was a point where people thought the tomato would poison you. If you would get the acid on your skin, it would cause a problem. If you would, because it was connected to the nightshade vegetable.
Right.
It was called the wolf peach. And that was the things. He's going to eat a wolf. The crazy man's going to eat a wolf peach. He's going to drop dead.
All right.
So, cannabis is right there with the tomato. Back in 1850, or thereabouts, 1830, I think, or 1820, I think, is when he ate the wolf peach. And obviously, it's time because my hair has gone full wolf peach.
All right. Well, Dave Connen, Chela, thank you so much for
tomatoes.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. I really appreciate it. This has flown by. I just looked at the time. It's been almost 2 fucking hours.
Hey, listen, our show, we do an hour and then we do 3 more hours talking about the news around the country. So our show.
Yeah, no, that's what, like, if I could, I would roll that way. I totally would.
No, we gotta go. It's
we would do 4-hour show, and one of our listeners was like, "You're gonna go 5 hours one day." And then Chela's been very good to try to. We need to tighten this up. We need to tighten it up. So yeah, we will. I don't know if it's the Blue Dream or if it's the 5 to 2 or what it is, but
it's the lovely chatting and the wonderful company.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great conversing with somebody that's also in the game, got a little skin in the game up there in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, I would. I had a really good time talking to you guys. It's nuts up here. I don't feel like I really got to explore just how fucking underbelly and weird it is here. But
we know all about you guys. We saw Murder Mountain. We know what's going on up there.
We have friends who live in Alder Point.
I joke, of course.
Who have farms in Humboldt.
Yeah, no, I know those guys too, man. It was weird watching that series. It kind of a couple of the people that came up missing used to come through here or were from Aptos down the road a little bit, and yeah, all that shit hit home a lot. It made me angry. I was yelling at my TV by the time I was done with it.
Yeah, no, that was. I think they hit and missed on that one. They should have made it two different a narrative docudrama, and then, or rather, a crime drama, and then really looked at the effects of legalization. Because one of the things that one of those episodes did show was the the mix-ups that can happen with neighbors, like literally a legal farm right next to an
Yeah.
illegal farm. They almost took out a legal farm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So pissed.
we have a long way to go, even though it's legalized. More illegal now than it's legal, brother.
It's true.
And it's been great.
All right, guys. You have a fantastic night. Good luck to us all.
All right,
Yes, we'll
free the
talk to you
plant,
soon.
free the people. Pot for peace.
Take care, folks.